Welcome everybody to my channel for another pick a card reading. Today's reading is hopefully going to be a bit of a deep dive but also a little bit of fun because it's all about winning at the game of life. And the idea or the inspiration for this particular reading came from a new tarot deck, a new indie tarot deck that I received very recently, which is called Life is Like a Board Game Tarot, and it's been created by Krystal. The details for that tarot, where I purchased it, like all the decks that I use, will be in the description box below. But what really intrigued me about this deck and what brought me to buy it and now also to use it and be inspired for this is I think it's a really clever idea to see the tarot as being a bit like a board game, whether you're talking about Monopoly, or some people may be familiar with the game of life that certainly people in my generation used to play quite a lot. These sorts of games that show both the strengths and aspirations and moving forward in life, and also sometimes the reversals and challenges, whether they be around finances or career or love or whatever it might be. And some people say that we live in a matrix and a simulation and it's all a big game. So if you believe that, then this will probably particularly resonate for you. But even if you don't, the tarot itself, the way that the major arcana in particular is structured, is very much like that hero's journey or fool's journey from innocence through maturation and all the various things that tend to happen in life. So I think it's a very clever way of doing it, and it's a very clever artwork here too, which makes me think a lot of those board games, which you'll see as we do it. So I just wanted to give a shout out to that deck because it did inspire this. Now, the other thing I do want to say is I have made a conscious decision with my channel to, as much as possible, look at finding and showcasing indie decks, whether they're tarot or oracle, because I want to support creators. I want to support the wonderful creativity that's in this particular part of the industry. And that doesn't mean that I won't use mass market decks and so forth. I certainly will, but I really do want to support this. What I do want to point out is that I love every single one of my indie decks that I've got. Any indie deck that I've got for a very particular reason, and that's true also of mass market. But with the indie decks, I've corresponded with the creators, made sure they were comfortable that I used their work on my channel, and I really want to support them. So when I shout out one particular deck, it's only really because it has inspired, say, a particular reading. Probably as of September or October, I want to start to do a few sideline videos that are about going through and showcasing those decks in more detail, and the creative process that the creators used, if they want to share that and so forth. So there will be those sorts of videos as well. And I just wanted to make the point that I don't have favorites in this. Any deck I have, I love, but I do want to, when a deck has particularly inspired a reading, I really want to point that out. So that's what I'm doing here. So hopefully you'll find this a really fun and interesting and engaging reading. We're going to look at 3 key areas where you can win in life, where Spirit thinks there are real opportunities for you, and where they want to give you guidance and support to leverage those opportunities and to deal with any challenges that may occur. And depending upon, I have some pre-chosen oracle cards to look at particular aspects of that. And then depending upon what areas Spirit is talking about with the tarot, I will then also supplement that with particular oracle decks that are chosen for that kind of subject matter. So there'll be quite a lot of detail in this, hopefully, and hopefully it will also be a bit of fun. So as always, the important thing is to find the right reading for you. So pile 1 has an amethyst crystal, pile 2 has a jade crystal, and pile 3 has a red jasper crystal. If you are drawn to crystal energy or crystal colouring, that may help you decide which deck is meant for you. But beyond that, you may have other ways that you tune in and find the right deck. Of course, you can go to more than one deck if you feel drawn to more than one deck. There's no rules against that. But in either case, whether it's finding a couple of decks that you feel drawn to, or whether it's finding the one, the important thing is to tune in whatever way works for you, for your intuition to find the right deck for you. If you need to pause the video at all to do that, then do that. And when you know what deck or reading you want to go to, the timestamps are in the description box below, and I'll see you there. Welcome pile one to your reading. Each of these three cards from the tarot deck are meant to represent one of the areas where you have great prospects of winning at the game of life. And so what I'll be doing with these is trying to work out what areas in your life I think that they are touching upon so that we can get more information about how to get the best possible outcome for you. So this first area I think is probably primarily around your career or potentially your creativity, if your creativity is your career or it's the career that you would want it to be. And my reason for saying that is we have a couple of Wands cards which picks up that creative and ambitious energy. And Eight of Wands suggests that we're really going to start to move quickly. We're going to start to achieve things. Coming out, I would say, with the Five of Wands reversed from a period of time where there has been debate or there has been some conflict or competition that you've been dealing with. But we have the Ten of Pentacles, which in this deck talks about abundance, legacy, avenue. So it's a really good place to be able to home yourself, ground yourself. There is a sense of a legacy there is a sense of building a career, there is a sense of money. There's a very strong sense, in fact, that your communication ability and your creative and innovative ability and your capacity to deal with conflict and transmute that in some way, which I'll get down to here as well in a minute, is one of the things that is going to make you potentially very wealthy or certainly very comfortable. Now, for some people in this could be connecting to family as well. It could be connecting to making your own way and your own particular sense of innovation, communication and style, separating from perhaps the connection to family and the expectations of family. But if that's the case, Spirit, I think, is saying here that you're going to do very well with that. So if you are someone, for instance, who wants to take these extremely fast thinking, fast creating, innovative energies that you have into something that is maybe different to what your family has expected of you, you will be able to win with that as well too. And in the longer term, potentially, well, I think in the longer term, definitely getting the respect of your family, but it's possible, particularly with this down here, that if that's the case, that you may be shifting into something that isn't understood at first, but it is actually really necessary. You've understood with the Tower energy here what does and doesn't work for you, and you are quite comfortable in going through conflict and change, and you stay optimistic with that. There is a sense with the two of these together, pile one, that you may have felt in recent times, either in your career or in some other aspect, as I say, connected to your family, that you are a little bit of an outlier. You are different to other people. You think a lot more quickly than the people that you're around, either in your career or in your family. And you have a very different idea about relationships and spirituality and all those sort of things, which I'll get to in a minute. And because of that, you need to find, or you are going to be on a journey to find those that you can connect with on the level of your optimism and your vision for the world and what you hope for the world and for your life. So for some of you, that conflict you're still going through, but Spirit is saying it's a necessary process, just as the Tower is a necessary change in life. I do think some of you may be about to leave home or leave a social group, leave something, even potentially leaving a group house. If you're young and you've been sharing your accommodation, it may be that you're moving into a position where you can live on your own. And there is some issues around that for you to work out how to make sure that you don't isolate yourself. You're definitely, though, coming into a good financial outcome. With the Five of Pentacles reversed, which in this pack is called Struggle Avenue when it's the right way up, you are moving out of that and of the sense of isolation. So this optimism you have and this capacity to deal with change is really helping you. And the Ten of Pentacles, I feel, is a very strong energy around what you're doing. So I do think these two things are connected. They are about you creating your own legacy. And I think it may be quite different, as I say, to your family, or it might be that you're really establishing that now, what that looks like for your family if you're older and you've established yourself. Whatever it is, you're establishing something that in the longer term, in the game of life around money and the foundations of life, and the sense of security in life is very, very strong. So Spirit is definitely saying you can win on the financial security and or wealth. It could be anywhere in that continuum. And part of it's because of your capacity to deal with change really well. Spirit's also talking about relationship over here. We've got the Knight of Cups. So I think for many of the people who've come here, there may be a new emotional offer coming to you. If it isn't, if you are in a relationship already, I think there's a blossoming of romance and that sense of love and a reconnection. If you've maybe been working so hard, it's a capacity to come back and be together again. But I think for many, it's someone new. I think that you're going to meet them potentially through either work, because this card with the Page of Swords in this deck talks about contracts and so forth. So it could be connected to a work change or an elevation at work. But for others, I think this is social media. I think Page of Swords often really does connote social media, electronic communication and so forth. What is interesting about it is that it will be very unconventional. Again, I get an overarching sense here that part of your next step in both your career and also in everything from your creativity, spiritual development, and how you want your family and your legacy to be is partly moving away from the past, is partly breaking down the things that aren't working for you anymore and moving into those that do. So there's something a little bit unconventional either about this person, and that's partly why you're interested in them, or there's something unconventional in how you want to be in that relationship. You're not necessarily looking for what would be conventionally the long-term relationship in the structured way, like marriage, for instance. Even though I think you are a long-term person and you do want connections that are long-term, there's just something different about this. And Spirit is saying that that's good, that the real narrative under all of this, the thing that is going to make you successful and win at life, is being truer and truer to yourself and your vision here, and finding that as the way to make the connections, not as a pattern or a meme. And what I mean by meme is not the sort of viral memes on Twitter or something where there's sort of humorous sort of cartoons or whatever to make often a political or social commentary point. I'm not talking about that type of meme. I'm talking about memes as they are traditionally known, the concept of ideas that society has. So marriage, for instance, is a meme. It is a concept about what it means to be connected over the long term, which can suit some people very well, but doesn't necessarily define what is required for the actual longer term happiness in relationships. So you are a bit of iconoclast, you are different, and part of that is what's going to make you win at life. Part of it is that very difference and that preparedness to stick with that. And you really, I mean, you don't shy away from a debate. You won't shy away from an argument. You probably were someone who was extremely good in terms of communication with debating at school, for instance. You may well be in a career where debating, communication and so forth is part of it. You're very, very comfortable with that. You're very, very comfortable with taking the opposing position, even within how you do your relationships. But definitely Spirit is saying big changes are coming for you, but they are changes that you want. They are changes that help you align to your North Star, to where you're heading, and which bring you closer to people who are like yourself. And that creates for you, I think, wealth, or at the very least security, and a relationship that is as unconventional as you are. So there were some pre-chosen oracle cards underneath the crystal that you chose to come here. And the first of those is from a deck that looks at combining astrology and chakra energy. So I've chosen one for each of these just to see what chakra energy and balance issues can be for each of these elements. And we'll do that. And then I'm going to use certain other oracles that haven't been pre-chosen to look, I think, at career, at love, and maybe at a combination of spiritual and also creativity, like, because I think you're creating yourself. So firstly, the chakra energies. Okay, so around your career, we have the solar plexus chakra, the third chakra. This is about really understanding your power. This is about really owning your sense of self. So you really have been through something. You do have a sense now in your career or in your creativity that you can create something that is lasting and financially, as I say, at the very least secure. That the planet that's connected with this chakra at the moment around that is Pluto, which is transformative, which is interesting because the tower is here. So I think that is connecting those, because the tower is a highly transformative area. it says that some of the conflict that you're coming out of was about the transformation. And this is the energy of connecting Pluto's transformative power with the strength and power of the third chakra. So it's about strengthening your sense of self, and it's showing that some of your power comes from the capacity to transform. You definitely are someone who, if you wanted to have a career in some form of change, be it organisational, political, social, whatever, you would definitely be able to do that, and may well be on your way to doing that in some form already. But if not, it's really saying that your sense of self-actualization, your sense of power within yourself comes at least in part from your capacity to transform, which I think is very important, because I think you are going through that sort of process at the moment, pile one. Over here, in terms of what I think is around love and relationships, it's very interesting that we have the sixth chakra, which is your third eye, and it's sitting over the reversed Hierophant. I think you will have a psychic connection with the person. And it's interesting, that may be the electrical energy here that I felt. It may not be social media, it may be telepathy, or it might be that you first connect over that sort of medium, because electrical mediums seem to heighten psychic connections, but it's there anyway. You'll find this person very inspirational because the planet that's with it is Neptune, and it may be, however, because we have the sense of surrendering to your intuition here, that because the person is very different, you may even not be sure. You may not initially be sure how they'll fit in with who you're becoming. They feel very different, not only to your history, but also potentially to you. And the thing in this is to go into it and see. Neptune in an astrology chart can be the ideal. It can also be illusion. So I think this balance is getting a sense of what intuitively feels right to you and going with it while that's the case. But if you feel at some point intuitively that it is more illusion than inspiration, then you move away from it. The good news, I think, for my pile one is you are naturally able to move away when something is not right. So either way, and we'll get some other cards around romance and love for you there, but either way, it's saying this is going to be different. This person is different. And if you are in a relationship, something is going to shift in that relationship. It's going to be developing in a way you didn't expect. But whether this is towards the ideal or whether it is a relationship of its time, you will have a sense of that if you really listen to your intuition. And if you are with the person, you have a psychic link, you will have a kind of a early warning system if you do need to shift on. I'm not at this point feeling if you are with a relationship you're going to shift on. I feel like there's a sense of moving to more and more security for you across all elements, but it's possible, particularly when we have the tower down here, and then that's come up with the heart chakra with love. So it is saying that a couple of things, I think. Firstly, it is saying that on a kind of creative and spiritual level, because I feel like this is talking about that, love, the heart, is where you come from. And we have Jupiter here. So Jupiter is expansion, it's luck, it's also wisdom. So again, you have the wisdom to go through the change and to keep aligned to your North Star. It is also about generosity. You may well be drawing people to you once you've come out of this and you've made money to be with you, to work with you, to help others. There is actually a really strong sense of that. I think that's part of the legacy that you want to give, pile one. You want to help others. You have a sense of love for the world and for others. But this is also connecting here, and I think it's telling me you will have the wisdom. Jupiter will give you the wisdom to deal with the inspiration, and you will have a generosity of spirit. Even if the relationship is only for a particular period of time, you will honor that relationship. That's part of who you are, and it's part of the reason why you will win at life, why you understand and you honor others. There is a deep sense of generosity around you, and you do help others go through change. And you've got this really strong fixed point within you that knows whatever happens, you will be okay. And it's like you give that same energy and love and so forth to others. I think you are a bit of an inspiration to others. So before we go on to the other pre-chosen cards, I want to actually pull some cards for particular things. So I'm going to look at a deck here that is around career, because I think this is primarily career. It could be creativity as well, but as I say, if it is, with the Ten of Pentacles, it's a sign that your creativity could be your career. So I want to pull a couple of cards from a deck that's around career just to see if we can get some other information. It might show the sort of areas that you work in. It might show some of the issues that you're dealing with. It might show just skills and other perspectives. So Spirit, tell me what else information will help pile one around winning the game of life around their career. Okay, so I think that Spirit is giving some advice and also some really good news. There's recognition coming to you. This is why I think the Ten of Pentacles is there. I think many people in pile one in the near future are likely to either get sort of a bonus or a reward or recognition in some way, or you may be promoted in some way. You're definitely going to have that sense, and I think it will be in recognition of your communication and your conflict management and your good teamwork sort of abilities. And it's showing overall that money is looking good and solid. So the Ten of Pentacles is being confirmed there. It says whatever you are working on now will win you the respect of others. So that's definitely, I think, picking up all of it. And you could move to a leadership position. So if you aren't already in that, I think you're on your way. The interesting thing that Spirit is telling you, and it's interesting, it's connecting to the solar plexus chakra where we have our sense of self, is that money issues are emotional to you in some way. And it says that if you're focusing just on the money and that's the way of measuring success, you will be potentially putting yourself in a bit of an emotional bind. So it's important to know that it's your ability that's taking you there, and the money becomes the outcome rather than money is the only outcome. You should be looking to your power and your sense of recognition and being with the right people rather than worrying about the outcome, because it will look after itself if you do that. It also says, interestingly enough, that you could earn some money doing something quite separate to your job. So I think that may be picking up some of my pile one where potentially you're doing very well in a career, but you're also creative. So if that's the case, I think Spirit is trying to say you can win even more by doing something as a sideline as well. But again, it's about being seen, recognised for what you bring to the table. The money looks after itself. So don't be that worried about money. If it has been difficult of recent times, and it could have been with this down here, the Five of Pentacles, you're coming out of that. You're coming into a better cycle financially. That's why I kept feeling that at the very least you're coming into financial security, and for some of you, you might be coming into wealth. So let's pull some cards around love and romance, because it's interesting here. I think that it's looking like there's someone very different, or a relationship is changing a lot into something other than what you thought it was going to be. And you're really going to need to look at your intuition about what's going on. So let's see, Spirit, give us a couple of other cards to help pile one know what signs to look for, how to navigate this new relationship or this change in a relationship. Okay, so it's interesting. We've got two reversed cards here, and one is about memories. So this suggests, again, a change, that there is something new about this. So if your relationship, if you're in a relationship and it's changing, then I think Spirit is saying let go of the past. It's evolving to what it needs to be. The thing you need to look at is whether that is something that you want in the medium to long term. But whatever it is has shifted. You've shifted on a fundamental level. It's very possible that you have been a catalyst for this change, and you're coming across as unusual to the person you're with if you're with someone, just as much as they might be. But Spirit is saying the past is not where this relationship sits. And if it is very different, if it's something different, again, don't compare it to the past. All that's going to do is confuse you. But if you accept the difference in the change and you think and feel into it, then that will help you come out of confusion. It does look like you have been a bit confused about relationships, about what you want, about the sort of person that you want to be with, about who you are in relationships and so forth. So you're coming out of that, but part of that, Spirit says, is owning who you are now. I do think that quite a bit because we've got the love connecting there. Quite a bit of this change has been you coming more and more into an understanding of who you are in love and what you want from love and the type of relationship you want from love. And I do think it might be quite different to your past and quite different maybe to your family. So I think it's good news, but it's saying don't live in the past. Own that change that you've gone through. Then you get to the star. So I want to also pull a couple of cards, one from each of two decks, that are more around spiritual soul sort of level change, because I think this is what we're looking at here. I feel like the foundation of all the changes around you are some profound changes in you that are very much for the good. So I just want to ask Spirit for a couple of cards, one from each of two decks that I put aside for this, to give me a sense of what else you can know to make sure that the heart of everything that you are doing is love, and love for self, love for others, love for your career, love for life. Okay, I think it's funny, I'm not sure whether I mentioned it at the beginning of this. I may have. I do think that for some of you, there is there's a shift in home. I thought it when I was looking at the cards at first. I'm not sure if I mentioned it. But I thought that there was potentially moving, I think I did. I said moving out of home, moving away from a situation you're in. I do think for many of you that is part of this, because we have both the path and we also have Iris, which talks about journey, the path, travel. So there's some movement. You are moving forward, but it's a big change. And maybe it's a tricky change on that level. Maybe you're leaving behind family who you love and you want to be together with. Maybe you feel like striking out on your own is somehow leaving people behind. But this is saying the path is there for you. And it's very interesting, these two cards, because the Iris card fits in colouring to intuition. So it's anchoring back again to understanding and surrendering to the concept that you're moving in a new path and it's the right path for you, and to trust with that and to use your telepathic and your psychic ability to really navigate that and understand how to always keep to the star. This card, the path, looks a little bit dark. It looks a little bit unclear, but it is interesting that there is light carrying you through that. So, and there is the moon heading towards the moon. So I think it's saying don't be concerned about that. Use your intuition because it's very strong, and your ability to deal with change really, really strongly as well. And as long as it's something that you care about and the people that you're around you care about, you will find your way through. You have a kind of a beacon within the darkness, which is your own intuition and your own understanding. So I think that's pretty nice, pile one. So now I want to use some of the other cards that were there already. Or actually, no, sorry. I first of all want to look at just a few cards that are from a Lenormand deck. A Lenormand deck has general fortune, so just any other across the board information, and then we'll look at the other pre-chosen oracle cards to close out the reading. So firstly, any other advice or information, Spirit, on a kind of fortune level for pile one to win at the game of life? Okay, so firstly we have ship again. I think it's Spirit's very much saying over and over there is travel involved in this in some way, whether it's internal, a very big shift within you, or whether it is literally moving home, traveling a lot for your work and for what you're creating in the world. There is that, and there is a journey, a path around this. It's usually very fortunate. It's big though. What you're doing is very big spiritually. Sometimes with the cross it can mean that a family member from the past who's passed over could be watching over you and guiding you. So that could connect back with the Ten of Pentacles for some of you. It's a great deal of love, if that's the case, with this guide that you have. But other than that, there are things that are spiritually important. And I think this connects back to the Hierophant, to the relationship, to what it is to love from your soul and so forth. The one thing that Spirit is saying to be aware of is that there could be, people may be either jealous of you if you are moving up the ladder quickly, or there may be gossip or discussion around you if people don't understand the change that you're going through. So that energy is potentially there. Don't let it put you off course. You will come out of feeling separate from people who don't understand you because you're on the right path. That's sort of just white noise, so don't be too concerned about it. So now I'm going to put down some astrology energy for each of these things again to see what the dominant astrology energy is for you. Okay, so around career we have the new moon, the seeding, plant what you desire. You are really starting to build something. This is this legacy. It is going to, I don't have any doubt that by pole one, in the longer term, probably medium to longer term, are going to be very successful in their career or creativity. And you are really putting in place and starting to get seen. So there's really great possibilities around you, and to believe in that and know that. It does talk about receiving guidance, so that may be from an ancestor or someone who's passed on. It may be from your spirit guides. But this is the time to embrace the new. You've done the work with the change. Embrace the new. It's going to pay off. Over around relationships, we have Uranus. So that, again, the tarot card for that is the Fool. So there's something very new and different about this. It does require you to do something different to the past, not to stick in the past. But it's about evolution, and it's about new journeys and change. Again, change for you is such a big thing. You are so good at change. So don't forget that. I think you may be quite comfortable with change in your career, but when it hits your emotional life, relationships and so forth, you may falter in your sense of self and sense of power. And this is saying, really look at your life, look at what you can do. This is an ability that helps in all things. Also with Uranian sort of relationships, if this is new, it will happen suddenly. It's got that electric feeling again. It will be full on, very intense. You won't be in any sense of doubt that this is the relationship I'm talking about if it's new coming into your life. Around the Tower, Star, and Five of Pentacles reversed energy here is a conjunction. That's when two energies come together to help bring something about. So I'm going to get the deck again, and I'm going to shuffle it, and I'm going to find two planets to get a sense about what other energies that are coming together, because I think it's pivotal to what this change is and what change you've navigated and what's supporting you with that. So just bear with me for a second. I'm shuffling, and then I'm going to start to just deal out till I find the first two planets or asteroids to look at. And the first one I've got already, which is Jupiter. And the second one is Chiron. Okay, so Jupiter is a planet, obviously. Chiron is an asteroid. Jupiter, again, we've sort of had that sense before around Jupiter being under here, so it very much aligns. If I just show this to remind you, it's Jupiter, wisdom and love. So Jupiter is coming up twice here. This is a time of expansion. You are definitely on a winning streak in all aspects of your life, but it has to do with the wisdom to deal with the change. Its tarot card is the Wheel of Fortune. It is showing again things are coming into alignment for you, and that is easeful. But Chiron is an interesting asteroid. It's called the Wounded Healer. So it is about healing energy. It suggests healing yourself as well. Interestingly enough, the tarot cards related to this are Temperance and the Hierophant. So it's connecting it back to this love relationship. I believe there is something in this relationship. It's either healing an existing one and moving to the next level, or this new one. And I think for most it's going to be a new one. There's something profoundly healing and benefic in this. And it's come because you've done the work. You may not even be aware of that, but it is. You're drawing that energy in because you've done the work on yourself, and you're clearer about who you are and who you are in your heart. So I think that's a very benefic connection. The one thing to be aware of, however, because I do think that you are a great change agent, is that Jupiter can be excessive sometimes. And if you are a change agent in one or more aspects of your life, what can happen is that a lot of people come to you to get healing in some way. Some of you may literally work in a therapeutic field, for instance. When that's the case, be aware that you may have an excess of people wanting your support. So you'll need to have some boundaries. So Lastly, I want to put down a card for timing for each of these to see whether they're all happening fairly close to each other and close to now, that kind of energy. And then we'll do one last card to look at the ultimate manifestation of this for you. So firstly, the timing. So it's not going to tell us actual timing here. It's really just reflecting some of the messages. So this recognition, this step up, this opportunity is when you need it the most. I think it is picking up that you may have wondered and struggled a bit about, am I going to be able to make this change in my life? Am I going to be able to be financially secure? That's why the emotions came up around finances. But it's saying, yes, when you need to move up each level, that's going to happen. It's being aligned for you. Over here around relationship, it says time to work. I do think that many of you may meet because of work in some way. Beyond that, it's also saying that there is work to do on the relationship in one form or another, to accept and understand something that's very new and different, or to repair and move into the future for a relationship that you already have. And this is saying after a big change. So I think it's talking about the outcome of it, because it is talking about a big change. But there is a big change for my pile one. I think many of you, as I say, you're going to move home, you're going to change jobs, you're going to have a new relationship, you might have all three. You may be on a bit of a voyage of discovery, literally, about yourself and your life, and big changes are coming for it. But I feel very confident for you because I believe that you are naturally able to adapt. So to close out pile one, I want to just put down one of the last pre-chosen cards, which is to show what you can manifest out of all these energies in the game of life. And we have integrity. So if you think about the theme of this, around all of it, it is about being true to yourself and communicating that, being in the right relationship for you, not the one that maybe looks conventional, and being able to deal with change and grow, but stay connected to the North Star, to what you're trying to do. This is a voyage for you of integrity, of being more and more who you actually are. And it is going to, I think, be manifest on all levels of your life. But that in itself creates the legacy and brings the wealth. You're not as driven by money. I think we are all concerned by money. But that's not what you're driven by. It will look after itself. And some of you may be very wealthy in the game of life, in actual fact, with that 10 of Pentacles. But that's not, you want to be true to yourself. And this is Spirit saying, yes, you are doing that. You are doing the work that you need to do, and it will manifest in all aspects of your life. So congratulations, I'd say. I think you're well on the way to winning the game of life, pile one. I hope that that resonated for you, and I hope it was enjoyable. If so, please like and subscribe. And if you have any comments, I'd love to hear about it in the comments below. Beyond that, I hope to see you in future readings. Welcome, pile two, to your reading. These are the three areas that I have tarot to look at for where you can win in the game of life, and what are some of the issues that you need to deal with, or things that you need to think through to do so. The interesting thing looking at these is that I get almost two very distinct narratives, and so I think some will have come for one and some will have come for the other, so I'll try and cover both as we go through. The first is, this looks to me like you could be someone who either very recently or very soon will be moving into some sort of a position of authority, and you're not necessarily 100% comfortable with that. So it could be a new leadership role within a workplace, within your friendship circle for some reason, within a community, organisation, etc. But moving into that is hard for you because you are all about connection. You are all about how you are with other people. You're not naturally ambitious on that level. You're not competitive on that level. You enjoy, workplace, you enjoy working with the team, all of those sort of things, but you are sort of ready to move up. It's just that you're not sure about whether you want to do that. You're not sure over here about making that decision. It's like you're holding off. It's like a job offer comes to you that could take your career further, and you're just not sure if you want to do it. You're not sure if you feel up to that step, and it's not because of a lack of ability. It's because of a really true sense of, do I want to be a leader of people as opposed to a people person? Now, the interesting thing is you can be both, and you would definitely have the ability. The very fact that you are questioning that shows that you have the right sort of mindset to do it ultimately, because you know that ultimately it's a different role, it's a different responsibility, but you aren't elevated above people. You're not that sort of person. You very much like that sense of sharing and collaboration, and you really like to enjoy what you do around your career or creativity. But again, you're feeling like, what you have to do that is suppress your ego. So I think that what Spirit is saying, firstly, if that resonates for you, is that you can win with this because you aren't going to become an egotistical narcissist, to be frank. You are going to be able to do this well and do it much better than you possibly think you can, because you will bring that sort of sense of humbleness and reciprocity to what you are doing. And you're a very generous sort of person, but you need to be able to back yourself. Now, the other way of reading this really comes from this card. So it's like, in one, I'm feeling it's about that, and it's about career. And here I'm thinking a similar sort of pattern is around relationship. So for some of you, what is going on here is that there's a new relationship coming in place. Potentially will feel like a soulmate or a twin flame or something like that. Or it's even one that you have and you're wondering about how to hold on to it, because there again is some sort of issue of, do you suppress who you are to some degree to connect and to think about the other person? And you're not sure about that. Can you be really authentic to who you are and still keep that relationship or bring it into being if you've just met the person? Can you get to a point where you enjoy each other and you enjoy the relationship rather than there being a bit of a competition? Now, if that latter thing relates to you, then I feel that you've been in relationships before where there have been power struggles and competition. That's why you're not sure. And so Spirit wants to really focus in on this in either situation. And it could be for some of you, it's happening in both. There's a kind of reflection operating here where you have opportunities around your career, but you're not sure about the collateral damage for the emotional joy of being in the workplace. And in a relationship, there's something really promising, but you're not sure about how much you can be really authentic in that and sort of stand out within it, whether that's going to be collateral damage on that level. So Spirit is saying on an overarching sense here, Pile 2, that you win at life when you realize that it's not an either or. That you can then make that decision over here because you've understood you can be the King of Wands or the Page of Wands. You can do that and still have a generous, celebratory, collaborative workplace or a reciprocal, mutually supporting soulmate connection. But the moment you're sitting on holding tight to what you have, is what I have. For some of you, actually, I'm getting that it may be that you're in a relationship at the moment, you know it's not really your soulmate, and you know that you are repressing who you are in some way. And so there's a decision about, do I stay in that relationship or do I hold tight to this? Because at the end of the day, if I start thinking about ego, then that's the wrong thing to do. So Spirit is definitely saying you need to have that sense of yourself in this, that you are in either of these areas or both, you're suppressing that. And if you own who you are more, then you're going to find that it's easier to make the decisions and you'll find the right connections or the right way to be in the workplace. So I want to put down some cards to look at the chakra energy around these particular elements. It might give us a little bit more of an idea whether this is predominantly about relationship in terms of love, or whether it's predominantly about relationships and power and authority and all those sort of things in work. So these cards are from an Astro Chakra deck that combines planetary energy and the chakra energy to give us a sense about where the focus needs to be for you. Okay, so this is interesting. I think it is saying that for me, I think it's saying that for many of you, it might be reflecting, as I say, and happening on both levels of your life. It's also potentially happening on who you are as a person in spirituality and how you want to develop. For others, it's saying it's one or the other. I'm feeling over here there is a lot around work. There is a lot around communication and how you communicate and how you deal with authority. What this is saying is that with the fifth chakra, which is the throat chakra, it's how we communicate. You can communicate in a very wise way. Don't underestimate what you can do here. You can model the sort of role that you want. So if you are moving into a leadership role, you could model what they call servant leadership, which is where you are there to support the team that you manage, not so much as to rule over them. You don't have to be a very egotistical King of Wands. You can be one that communicates very well. And that generosity energy that comes here, that's connecting this, that sense of wanting reciprocity will come across as very authentic. So going into that sense of how do I help others? How am I benefic to others? And if this is about a relationship, the same thing. Is this a relationship where I feel that I am bringing my highest good and where I'm communicating in a way that is helping and supportive of others and expansive and benefic and positive? Over here, this does seem like maybe the choice is around a love relationship, or it's certainly around what matters to your heart, because we have the fourth chakra, which is the heart chakra, which is all about love in its various forms. And the interesting thing here is that we have Saturn, which is about discipline. And so Saturn is a planet that is slow moving sometimes, and so that's partly that energy, the slow moving energy of making the decision. You're sort of resisting it in a way. It's about having good boundaries, which is important in any of these aspects. It's also in this card about focus. So I think Spirit is definitely saying that you need to focus on what love is to you and how that connects with how you communicate. When you do that, you'll be able to make the decision. You're holding off because you haven't focused on it. It's almost like whatever this key decision is, work, love, or both, you're sort of like turning your head away from it, not wanting to look at it. And Spirit is saying that if you connect to your heart, you will be able to make the decision, and you need to make the decision. Down here, in this sense, I think, which is about finding how to be in a collaborative or a mutually supportive scenario without dealing with ego. It's interesting we have spirituality. This says that this is the core of you. This is the underlying engine room of all of this. It's the opportunities you have and the reluctance to make the decision, because spiritually you really want to be walking the talk of what you believe in. And what you believe in is very, very good. But it's interesting that we have Neptune here. So Neptune is about inspiration. It can be the ideal. So you're highly idealistic, and it's very lovely. I mean, the energy that you have around this is very lovely, pile 2. But your spiritual beliefs about this are informing this in some way. So whatever that is, whether it is that you have a very conventional sort of religious credo that you live by, or whether it is some other path, looking to that and understanding that from the crown chakra, from what you feel and get from Spirit, from the divine, that will help you bring this about. It's Spirit saying to you that it's all within you. It's all within you. Your belief structure will make sure that whatever decision you make in these places and how you operate, having made the decision, you will do the right thing. But you need to own that. You need to own the fact that the spirituality is the starting point for you. And as long as it aligns with that, because it looks as though you kind of segment your life in some way. You dull some of the energy around spirituality. You almost see it as a thing apart. That's a nice thing, but then we have to make decisions about career or relationship, when in actual fact for you, everything comes from this. So these cards are definitely saying to look at that. So I want to use some non-pre-chosen cards now from different decks to look at that. So I think that I'm going to look at career here and relationship here, even though I think either could be the case. So we'll think across that. And then I'm going to look at spiritual sort of energy for this one, because it's very much about spirit. So firstly, let's have a look at a couple of cards around career for this area where I think that you do have a real opportunity to step into a leadership role, but you've got to be comfortable with how you operate and communicate within that role. Okay, so Spirit is saying, this is interesting. Spirit is saying that in fact around your career, up until recent times anyway, you have had some setbacks. You have not necessarily gone forward, and I think some of that is because of your own ambivalence about it, about what that means. So while you sit in that situation, while you sit there, that setback remains. Spirit is saying that there, and that's why we've got the Four of Pentacles. And this is also talking about emotions being very strongly tied to money. There's something about money for you. There's something about what that means and what the price to pay of higher remuneration might be, how it impacts relationships. That's very important. There could be, I'm getting for some of my pile too, a direct connection between an existing relationship that you're trying to work through that is having stress, because we've got the emotions around money, and what you're doing materially. There could be competition within a relationship about who is the most successful. There could be pressure from someone in a relationship saying, take that next step, even though you're ambivalent about whether that's what you want to do for your career. So there's something there, and communication is very much an important part of working that through. So whatever this is, the setbacks have to do with your lack of decision around this. But once you actually can start to make that decision and back yourself a bit more, you can move out of that. But I do think that for some of you, it's connecting around a given relationship. So with that, I want to use an oracle that looks at love and relationships for the energy over here. Okay, so firstly we get communication again, so it's connecting there. So it's definitely saying there's a connection between these two things. It's saying, I think, for many of my pile 2, that the primary issue here that we're dealing with to win in the game of life and to feel good about things and good about yourself is around your relationships, because you are very much a relationship oriented person. But I think for many there is a existing relationship around you that needs better communication, and it's possibly because of the impact of things happening around career and money. So there's definitely better communication can help make the decision you need to make. We've got forgiveness reversed too. So there may have been some harsh words or difficulties around the relationship, or it might be that part of what's happening here is that you're either reluctant to be in a relationship, to commit to one, to look for one if you're not in one, or to make the decisions that you need to make being in one, because there's still some really harsh feelings from past relationships where the communication maybe wasn't that clear and when there was a lot of pressure and competition. So there's definitely something here around owning who you are and being comfortable that you're not going to lose the base of that in making decisions in career and or in your relationships. And for many of you, it's connected. So given that spirituality is a really core bit of this, I want to pull a couple of cards from a deck that looks at spiritual guidance for you for this energy down here, because I think there's a promise that once you sort of align to your spirituality, there is cause for celebration, better relationships, better sort of balance around money. So it's the key. So Spirit, can we have a couple of cards to help guide pile 2 around getting to that point? Okay, so firstly we've got discover. So it's saying don't turn your head away. I get this sense over and over that you feel like you turn your head away from the decision so that you don't have to face it because you're worried that you will dominate in a way that you don't want to do. And I think that this is saying discover, look at it as discovery, look at it communication, to discover all the opportunities career and love wise, because if you go with that type of approach, it's not about who's going to win, even though this is about winning at the game of life. This isn't winning at the expense of others. This is discovering who you are and what you can communicate and what you can be. And we have I am. And I think this is a double message for my pile 2. Firstly, it's saying that you are a very spiritual person, and where you come from will have a very strong spiritual base. So you are able to back yourself on these decisions because you're not going to do something that is narcissistic or difficult. You're not. And if you've been accused of that in the past, then that's not true. You actually are somebody who would put themselves aside rather than cause harm to anybody else. But this is about finding a balance, and that's the other side of this card. I am. You need to say I am. You have a right to say I am. You have a right to be the King of Wands, the Page of Wands. You don't have to suppress who you are. If you're suppressing who you are for a relationship or for a career, then that's not the right thing to be doing. And if you move into a position of more power, and I do think for some of you, when you unblock this energy and you kind of get to the primal I am, you are going to do that, but you are not going to be a despotic manager. That's not going to happen. Maybe some of you have seen that in the past and you think, will I become the thing that I despise? The answer to that is no, you won't. But you need to have clarity on who you are. You need to have aligned that through an area of discovery, and to have the confidence that who you are is fundamentally a good person. So you're not going to do anything really sort of off the charts in a way that you wouldn't be happy with. So before we look at the other pre-chosen oracles around this for you, I just want to use a Lenormand deck, which is a classic fortune deck, to see what else Spirit wants to say about your fortune over this period. Pile 2, sorry. Okay, it's definitely picking up that some of this is there is a kind of a, not necessarily a battle, but there is that you have to be prepared to go into and communicate around things that are difficult or tricky. The snake is there for some. You may find that you need to move away from certain relationships because they are not authentic to you. Equally, it could be just that you have a fear of that. You have a fear of not being in or becoming the snake yourself. You have a fear of the whip, of arguments or whatever. But Spirit is saying the key is just going to the core of this and remaining true to who you are. But there is a period of time where you do need to sort some of this out at work or with a significant other, or just in looking at the past and communication and becoming more confident in who you are, because otherwise you lose the key. If you won't go into the more difficult emotions, you lose the key. So let's use some of the other cards. So firstly, I want to look at some timing around all of this for you. Okay. So this is a timeless reading, so you may see this at any given time, though I suspect with when I'm filming this and with my schedule that it will be up and available sometime in either late August or September in 2021. So it's interesting down here in the foundational thing that we have September. I think what that is saying is that it's relatively close. This decision, you know it. You're going to move through this relatively quickly and relatively soon. If you are looking at it at another time, it may simply be saying September, the nearest September from that will be that, and that may pick up around a relationship, because up here around the relationship it's saying 11 to 12 months. It either means this is a slow burn to sort through all this if you're in a relationship, or it may mean that within the next year you're going to bring this person in, a person who you can have that right sort of relationship with. And in a way it's good if it is a little bit further out, pile 2, because I think it allows you to make sure that you're comfortable in that relationship. Over here around work it says patience is key. I think that's patience with yourself so that you're ready to take that step. And when you move into a new role or a new level of responsibility, then patience will be key to dealing with that as well too. So this is a bit of a slow burn reading, and I think it's because you have to really get to the I am. Spirit wants you to understand that you are not going to go off the rails in any aspect of your life if you own more of who you are. But that takes time to do. There's some programming that's happened to you in childhood or in previous relationships that have meant that you worried, you've kind of gone back into yourself and worried that if you were more honest and open about who you were and really all your accomplishments, that somehow you're going to end up with backhanded competition and with discord and so forth. So it's moving out of that patterning. So let's have a look at some astrology energy to help you with each of these. Okay. So around here, around career, we have the South Node. So this is showing some of this patterning that is making you reluctant is deeply embedded from the past, maybe even from past lives, but certainly from past things in your career, past things in your family. This is something that you need to move away from. So you need to move away from that fear of the repercussions, and Spirit is definitely saying you're meant to move up the ladder, you're meant to be a leader, don't feel you always have to be part of the team. You'll treat the team well, but you need to move away from that. Your time to move on is coming, but you need to understand that about yourself. Around here, this is anchoring this to career and how you are in the world. So I think it suggests that relationships, sorting out personal relationships, will also be impacted by and have an impact on your career. And as I said, for some of you, I think that is connected. There's something about career with maybe a current relationship and sorting through that. But that will also bring in the right connections for you with relationships. And it's all about transformation. You do need to transform. You need to empower yourself, which is what Pluto is about. You need to be able to make the judgments, the tarot cards there, about what is going on and about yourself in a way that is aligned with who you are and gets to the I am. Because it's like I just get this sense of like this unleashed potential, because you hold yourself in such strict regulation because you want to be a really good, decent person that you fear you're not going to be. I think you'd be the sort of person who would agree with that concept, power corrupts and absolute power corrupts absolutely. But in actual fact, it won't if you are true to yourself, because what you're taking into those sort of roles, into your love life, into your career, that's really positive. So let's ask Spirit as a closing thing with the last of the pre-chosen oracles about what you can manifest as you move through the game of life here. And we have inspiration. So I think that's lovely on a couple of levels. One, I think if you are moving into a leadership position and you're worried about being authoritarian and losing that connection, you won't. You're going to be inspiring to others. You're going to be someone who leads by example and who people really look to and follow. And so you'll still have that connection. You'll still have that collaboration. And if you are looking to relationships, you'll become more inspired about who you want to be with and how you want to be in a relationship. So I do think there's some work to do here, part 2, but I think that Spirit is saying that you have so much potential in all these areas, and the real first thing is the I am. And once you do that and you look at this as discovery and new opportunity and you back yourself, nothing can stop you. So I hope that resonated for you, and I hope that it was enjoyable, even though it's a bit heavy what you're dealing with, but I think you definitely will be able to do it. You just need to really understand how special that balance of caring about others and also being able to move forward and lead is. And I hope you enjoyed the reading. If so, please like the video and subscribe. And if you have any thoughts on this, I'd love to hear about it in the comments below. Otherwise, I hope to see you in future readings. Welcome, Pile 3, to your reading. These 3 areas are 3 areas that Spirit is saying you could win in the game of life. And I do have a sense that for most of my people in Pile 3, a lot of this is around career choice, career direction, and so forth. There could be some here around relationships as well, but it feels at the moment like for most of my Pile 3, you're probably in an okay position in terms of relationship. You're either in a happy, established relationship, which is allowing you then to think about what your dreams and visions are, or you're happy enough about relationship, it's not what's driving you. You're either just dating and having a good time, but it's not the real focus, or you're not in a relationship, but that's not how you're getting happy and fulfilled. It's more in terms of what you're doing. So we will get to this and talk about that in relationship in general, but I think this is also, and it's turning out to be a bit this way in all these readings, a bit of an engine room under which these other areas are happening. You look to me like someone who provides, literally as this is the King of Cups and as this card says, the provider of emotional support and maturity, provides a lot of guidance to others and a lot of clarity with the Ace of Swords. You're very clever, you can see opportunities where other people can't see them, and you can motivate people who aren't motivated. So I feel that in your work, you may literally be in a career where you provide therapy support or counselling, career counselling. It could be that you're a teacher, it could be, or a lecturer or something like that, or you could be someone who is motivational, like a motivational speaker in some way, an influencer in some way. But what you do, you're bringing a really strong sense of understanding about the emotional underpinnings of careers and choices and study, whatever it is, and the clarity to bring people out of a sense of ennui, a sense of being stuck. You help people move forward. What Spirit is saying is the interesting thing is that you may be able to do this for others, but you also need to do it for yourself, because it looks over here as though in your day-to-day work or study if you're still studying. With the Knight of Pentacles, you just take it one step at a time, but you sometimes find it hard to make the decisions that you can so clearly see for other people. And you feel like you achieve certain things and then you just want to hold tight to those. You're worried about the next step and what to do. And I think it's partly because you do enjoy what you're doing, whether it's study and you're helping other students around you, or whether you are in one of those careers, as I say, or in some role in an organisation where you're a leader and you're really helping others. But there's a sense of, I'm not sure where I want to go next. What do I do next? Interestingly enough, when you're a leader in an organisation, and some of you may well be, sometimes you've got to make a decision about, do I become more and more a technical expert in what I'm doing and go in that direction? Do I become more generalist and move even further up the ladder? Or am I where I want to be, and what I want to do now is coach and support others? So some of this is about making those decisions about who you want to be next. That's the sense I have about this, that you've achieved a certain amount. Who do I want to be next? And it's almost like Spirit is saying, if you could take this skill you have with others and shine that light on yourself, then you'll get back to your North Star. It's about communication, but sometimes it's internal communication about what would make you happy. Now, as I say, there's also the possibility down here that we're looking at things around relationship, but that just looks good. That looks like there's good communication and so forth. So if you haven't been in a relationship and you're waiting for one, I think this is a very good indication that something will come. But it's interesting that it sort of follows, if that's the case, these. So it's like once you've decided to turn this amazing empathy and acuity to yourself, you're going to find that all the decisions in your life move more quickly. But I do feel for most of you, this is about the nature of what you do and the skill that you have and why you are going to be successful and win at life. And this is about applying it to yourself in some particular situation. So let's have a look using a deck which is called the Astro Chakra deck, and it looks at a combination of planetary energy and chakras to see what else we can learn about each of these areas. Okay, I'm going to jump to this one first, spirituality. It does, as I say, in these readings, I've found that this often tends to be the engine room under which the other issues are being done, and I think this is the truth here. And the fact that we've got spirituality, the seventh chakra, which is the crown chakra, your connection to the divine, is with the star. There is a real sense that you are very divinely connected, you're very spiritually connected. What you do is part of the reason why you're the King of Cups over here, is very, very much there. But there's a thing about individuality. You've got Uranus there, so there is that sense of revolution and change and freedom. You are someone who needs freedom, and to some degree what you say to other people is about how to be free, but in a weird way it's like you've not given yourself the same freedom that you give to others. I do think for some of you, you are in an established relationship or a family, and one of those things that might be putting a bit of a brake on you. So it's how do you stay free and true to your spirituality? And what would you say to someone else who came to you with that issue? Because if you do that, you'll be able to make your own decisions about that. You don't have to have an either or, I think this is saying. And if you aren't in a relationship yet, it's because you value your freedom at the moment, and there's nothing wrong with that. You're communicating with the world, you're following your North Star, you're fulfilled enough in yourself. And in many ways, that's a very good basis for a longer term relationship when you do come across one, because you're happy with who you are. And you're happy with your freedom, but that would be important. And it's exactly the sort of thing that you would say to someone else if they were asking you about relationships, how to be free and authentic within a relationship. So that is there. You love what you do. And the King of Cups is very strongly aspected here because we have the fourth chakra, the heart chakra. There is true love, and it has Venus there as well too. You love harmony. You love clarity. You love to be able to pour oil on troubled waters. You love to be able to settle things and give people that clarity and that different philosophy and ways of doing things. It is a passion for you to do it, and Spirit says you will be very successful with that because it comes from the heart. And you are naturally harmonious. So it's interesting because I feel like this is more about love of your vocation. Like you are someone who has a vocation in some way. But certainly, again, it's saying when you're ready, for a relationship, or if you're in one, that love that you have creates the harmony. Again, it's like if there's a decision around that, think about how you would tell someone else what to do with it. And then over here, in trying to work out what that decision is, in trying to make the next career step or the relationship or whatever it might be, communication is very strong. So we have the sixth chakra, which is all about intuition. It's about telepathy. There's a electric communication between you and others. And I think that's also shown by the Page of Swords. You're highly telepathic and highly intuitive. But this is about communication because Mercury is there. And I think you are a very strong communicator. And again, it's coming back and saying, communicate to yourself what you would communicate to others. Expand your knowledge if necessary. Learn more about what this would mean to you. Don't get stuck in old theories. Don't get stuck in indecision. You can move forward. You can create more, but you really have to apply that knowledge that you have and that communication ability that you have to the situation that you're in. So let's have a look with some particular cards. So I'm going to look at career here. I think I'm going to look at career here. I'm going to look a little bit about personal empowerment and energies around that there, and then I'm going to look at spirituality here. So because I feel like love is there, but I don't think it's the big ticket issue at the moment. So firstly, a couple of cards here around the career that you do, what could be happening with that, may show the sort of areas that you do it, may show some skills, may show some challenges that you have at the moment to deal with. Okay, so firstly with animals, there is a possibility that some of you literally work with animals in some way, and that could be connecting to that empathy and caring and so forth. So any career around that could be for you potentially. It's also saying connect with your power animals. So if you have a sense about animals that are totems for you, that's really worth looking at to help you be even better at this sort of harmony that you have. But you're a bit of a rebel, it's saying. Now that's really interesting because you're someone who brings new ideas with the Ace of Swords there, but there's a lot of emotional depth to it, and you bring people out of things by being a bit of a rebel. You're the kind of person who says, I don't look at the world, and there's a quote, and I don't know who did it, but something like, I don't look at the world and ask why, I look at what hasn't happened and ask why not. It's that kind of energy that you have. And there's something of a trailblazer about you. You do see things different. You are rebellious. You do need freedom. You're someone who absolutely needs freedom in relationships, in career, in everything. So there's something around this which maybe you're worried it's going to restrict your freedom in some way. It might be moving to a new level in a career where you feel like you're going to be more constrained in some way, or you're going to have to be more careful about what you say and how you use your communication. So there's something there for you. It's also saying that you could hold yourself back. Being a rebel, you could hold yourself back from success and winning at the game of life if you feel like it's going to restrict your freedom and the love of what you do. So I think there is a question here for you. And again, as I say, if you train that ability on your own situation, you will help to make the decision. So let's have a look at some cards that are really more around self-empowerment, I think, for this particular one, and how you can use those skills more for your own benefit rather than just the benefit of others, which is where I think you tend to put your energy for the most part. Wow, you really are the natural born free person. It's definitely saying here with Sky here that it's really important for you to have that sense of limitlessness, that you can move, that you aren't constrained in any way. And that's coming back to this, to what your spiritual center is. And it's interesting that it's in the general realm of the color is between probably the fifth chakra of the throat chakra, which is communication, which is Mercury, and then the sixth chakra, which is sort of more the lavender sort of colors or whatever, but the sky blue with a little bit of lavender around it, that sense of freedom, that sense of moving at that level. You're highly self-actualized, in fact, and you want to remain that way. what this is saying with ruby, which is the root chakra, the foundation of your life, fearlessness, strength, being a warrior, this rebel energy, it's saying as long as you know that you can keep that sense of having an iconoclastic, different way of looking at the world, and you have your freedom, that's all you really need to make that decision. And as long as you communicate that clearly, then you will be on the right path. You are not someone who can be constrained. That doesn't mean that you couldn't be in a relationship, you couldn't commit to a job or any of those things, but you need that. It's like the air that you breathe, literally, and making sure, and that's what you would say. See, if you met someone like you and they were trying to make a decision about something they weren't sure about, you would say to them, what really matters to you? Freedom and that sense that you can be true to who you are. That's how you make your decision, and it's also how you make your decision. So let's also pull some cards around spiritual beliefs. So whatever Spirit would also like to tell you around being true to this spiritual sense for freedom and change and evolution and revolution sometimes. You could very much be an organiser, a community organiser, a social justice person with this. Very strong energy like this. You're very inspirational. So let's see what Spirit says about spirituality for you. Okay, so firstly we have illumination. So I think it is saying that if you use your spiritual beliefs, your spiritual, whatever it is that you follow, and that sense of wanting freedom and so forth, then you will have the illumination. And we've got a double illumination here if you think about it. We've got the moon in this card and we've got the star there. So you really can find, you are a light in the darkness, pile 3, for yourself and for other people. And if you stay true to that, then you're heading in the right direction. Then it's where you pay attention. When I see attention come up around a spiritual reading, I think it tells me that the person has strong manifestation powers, because what manifestation is ultimately is focused attention. So again, I get the sense, focus the attention that you will give to others on yourself, and the decision will be really clear, whatever this is, whether it's around career, relationship, or both. I think for most of you it's around your career. Okay, so before we look at the other oracle cards that were pre-chosen, I just want to pull 3 cards from an Lenormand deck, which looks at fortune. So it's a much more classic sort of fortune deck, the Lenormand deck, just to see what else Spirit wants to tell you about the energies that are around at the moment for you. Wow, okay. It's very, very positive. For a start, you have the tree, and that is sort of like the tree that blooms, the tree that grows. It very much connects to the soul tree energy here about that's important for you. You are in a growth cycle, and with the sun, the only way is up, really. You just need to be aware that you don't need to compromise too much, and then you'll move very quickly. There's also news coming to you that will help. So there's some form of communication that's coming, I think, that will help you around this. Some news that you'll hear from other people that are somehow involved. That's going to be positive news, I would say, with the sun there, and it will let you see how you can grow and how you can develop. So if you are still feeling, look, that's great, you know, you're telling me to just do what I would tell other people to do, but I'm still not sure, I don't have enough information, the information is coming to you. And partly it will come psychically. Partly you are going to be able to pick up, you could read a room really well and really trust that, but it's also literally going to come to you as some form of communication. Okay, so let's have a look at timing around these 3 areas. Okay, so this is interesting. So firstly, January around this, which is there's something around your career that will be important in the month of January, which could be nearby depending on when you see this reading, or it could be a fair way away. It also gives a sense of the beginning of a year. So I think just on a very basic level, it's sort of refreshing. The New Year's resolutions, all of that sort of stuff is coming up here. It is saying you don't have to rush this decision, and I think part of that is because you are so spiritually aligned, and don't rush it till you get the information, because information is coming. Don't worry if you're indecisive for a while. I think Spirit is saying the information will come that will allow you to know the direction. I do not believe this is saying that your spirituality is a waste of time, But I think that it is suggesting that anything that doesn't align with what you want to do spiritually is a waste of time. That's the thing to think about. So if it's other people's expectations, or it's things that hold you to commitments that are not working for you, that are not true to you, then it's a waste of time. When you illuminate and put attention on things, you can see what a waste of time is. But I cannot believe that Spirit would be saying that spiritual contemplation is a waste of time. But I think that you will find there are things that become a lot clearer when you get that information to clear out of your life so that you free yourself again. Anything that stops your freedom is a waste of time. No, even if somebody says this is what you need for your next career step or whatever, that's not true. You need something that is very true to you. So let's have a look at some astrological energy for you. Okay, so firstly we have Pisces up here, and that connects with the King of Cups. You may well be a Pisces or have Pisces strongly in your chart, sun, moon, rising sign, or a lot of planets in Pisces. If you know your chart, you don't have to. Or it could just be connecting to the energies of Pisces. The tarot card is the moon, so that again, I feel that sense of illumination for you, and the sense of sort of there is a little bit of mystery. You're a little bit mysterious in a way. You're kind of a bit of an alchemist in what you can do and your degree of freedom. So there's something, you're almost a mystery to yourself, and that's part of what you need to work through. But you're probably a little bit of a mystery to others, but that's fine. You can do what you need to do with that. So it is around 12th house sort of matters. So there's a lot around, you draw from a great depth of emotional and psychological maturity and understanding. Over here we have the 9th house. That's a planet ruled by the planet Jupiter, which is very positive. So it is suggesting, again, there's no particular rush. When you work this through, you're going to move into a new cycle that's very positive for you. It does, though, connect to spirituality, religion, your higher mind, and so forth. So it is very much supporting, again, that this is the area. Understanding your own spiritual direction will help you in making these decisions. And then we have around here in spirituality, the waning gibbous. So that's the calm after the storm. So there may have been a little bit of a spiritual crisis that you went through. And maybe that's part of that waste of time, that you doubted yourself spiritually. You doubted what you were doing. And Spirit is saying, let that pass. That was a storm. You've gone through it. The sun is here after the storm. It's about transformation. It certainly says that it's a good time for meditation and going within. So maybe some of you did deal with a crisis of faith, or that's part of what is making decisions difficult for you. But Spirit is saying, let go of that stuff. Stay true to who you are. So, given that, the last card that was pre-chosen is a card just to see what you can manifest if you move through this advice and win at the game of life. And we have protection. So that's an interesting card. I think that it's saying it is protecting your individuality, it's protecting your freedom, it's protecting who you are at a very base level, that you don't need to give that up, and you can be sure that you're getting a lot of spiritual protection, spiritual advice. Trust your own intuition. Look at where you pay your attention, because information is coming to you. So if you felt in some way, and I think what would have been threatened here is your sense of self or your sense of freedom, that you will somehow through making a decision have an outcome you don't want, you are being protected from that, because what you bring to people is too precious, and it's important that you retain that freedom and that sense of the new so that you can help others. So I think that you are very much protected by your spirit guides, and you will come through this. But you need to train your extremely acute and clever and empathic and emotionally resonant mind onto your own situation, and understand that you will know how to be free, but also move forward. So I hope that that resonates for you, pile 3, and I hope that you enjoyed the reading. If so, please like the video and subscribe if you haven't already done so. And if this does really trigger something in you that you'd like to share, I'd love to hear about it in the comments. Otherwise, I hope to see you in future readings.